Harley-Davidsons have been known to lead this category of motorcycles, the big cruisers. And to want a piece of this pie, BMW has got the R18. Now, giving you an example, Royal Enfield lead the market in the 350-500cc category. And to want a piece of that pie, Honda has launched the Highness, or you can say the CB350. Basically, the same condition has happened over here. And to bring the heritage back, BMW has incorporated the R5 design in the R18. Now, to tell you this is the largest boxer engine they could have got, and this is one of the cleanest, most beautiful motorcycle you can see. But is it worth your money? Well, before we begin, subscribe to Motorbeam and don't forget to hit the bell icon. We Indians are very conscious about the price, the number, and to start off with this motorcycle, the BMW R18 first edition version comes at an on-road price of 27 lakh rupees. Well, that number is a bit too much, but I can definitely say that it justifies the price only because there's a lot to talk about. And let's start with the styling. The front design has been incorporated from the same R5 design, and this front headlight has been incorporated with a single screw right over here. So it is an individual unit, does not go anywhere else on the body. It stays right on two sockets, that's it. To continue with the same R5 design, you've got covered forks and they taper at the top, have a bulge in the middle, and it looks pretty nice. And to cover up the whole design again, the front tire is a spoked wheel over here, and this is a 19-incher. With the overall body, it does not look as big, but this one is a big one. To complement that, you've got dual disc at the front, and yes, chrome BMW calipers too. You can see that the rake angle is quite a lot high and making this motorcycle very long. Plus, you've got a double cradle frame over here as well. Well, looking at the engine, there's one thing that feels a little out of place, and that is the oil cooler, which sits very low. There are chances that it might hit it, but we haven't hit it even once. What does look the part and stands out is this engine. Well, this motor weighs 110 kgs by itself. While looking at the number, it definitely says that it is an 1800cc motor which produces 91 bhp and 156 Nm of torque. Well, looking at it, this motorcycle does stand apart, and the engine has the complete attention. The heads stick out on both the ends, and everything else, the crankshaft, the starter motor, everything has been placed compacted inside this engine, but it is still not a compact unit. The tank looks tiny, but it contains 16 liters of fuel, and to give you a better comparison, this is the size of my head, and this is the size of one piston block of this motor. Apart from the engine, what does stand apart is the exhaust, which flows on both the ends from the start to a fishtail end. Well, this design looks very unique. Some might like it, some might not. Digging a little bit deep, you can definitely notice that this one gets a drive shaft. It does not get a chain, it does not get a rubber drive, it gets a drive shaft. Some have even said that ये तो truck जैसा है यार. And BMW says that this is an open shaft unit which will have no problems whatsoever. It gets LEDs all around, which is not that unique, but something that's unique is the tail light, which is integrated within the indicators itself. If you look at the overall body design, well, it has a very different stance altogether. It goes very high on the top, drops down from the tank to the seat, has a bump in the middle, and the tail comes out. Well, that was the top half. In the lower half, it is a flowing straight, but the exhaust makes matters very different. Overall, this motorcycle is long. It is the longest you can find from a BMW. Actually, it is longer than the standard longest Harley-Davidson 2. This one has a wheelbase of 1731 mm, making it the longest BMW production motorcycle right over here. What has happened is BMW first created the engine and then got the bodywork all along so that they could replicate the R5 design just as well and as clean as possible with a modern touch to it. The switchgear and the instrument cluster look very basic. Well, they are very purposeful. What I like the most is the lever, which has 5 levels of adjustability for the brake as well as the clutch. Plus it is in chrome. Plus the adjusting lever or the gear over here looks very unique too. On the right side switchgear, you get an on button. Well, it is a keyless go motorcycle, so basically you have to keep your key on your body right over here and it will turn on the motorcycle right from the get-go. If you are at a distance, it will show the key missing sign or it will give out the red logo so that you can basically find the key and get it started. What this motorcycle does is uniquely is that when it does a startup, it moves itself in a weird manner. When I rev the motorcycle too, it has a weird movement altogether because it is a transverse movement and the camshaft is not sitting horizontal, it is sitting vertical, and that is the reason it moves in such a manner. The left side switchgear contains a lot more buttons, but they are not as extensive as the bigger GS motorcycles. The headlight is an automatic unit over here, so once you come into a shade, the low beam will turn on by itself. If you come to bright light or daylight, the DR will turn on by itself. The pass light switch works as a high beam switch too. You've got a hazard button on the top, mode button on the right, a menu button on the left, basically with which you can switch between the menu or basic details on the meter. You've got an indicator switch and a horn button too. Horn is quite basic and the placement of the horn is a little different too. It is definitely a loud horn. Running through the details of the analog digital instrument cluster, well, you've got a decent set of information, but the basic information which lies is not that great. You've got an analog speedometer and the rest of the details come in a tiny digital LCD. Switching between them, you can use the menu button and it can show basically the odometer, twin trip meters, basically it's just a single trip meter and the daily trip meter, then average speed, average voltage, your current date, your current kilometers per liter, that is the current mileage. You can switch between kilometers per liter or liters per 100 kilometers the way you like it. You can get the liters per hour timing too, which is currently right now because you are at standstill, that is the live mileage. Then you can get your time and the RPM meter on the go. So yes, you have to keep switching between the details and the information is very basic. One thing that's definitely standard is the gear position indicator. What you don't get over here is an engine temperature gauge or a complete digital instrument cluster or even a fuel gauge for that matter. Basically, when this motorcycle goes to reserve, it will just show a yellow indicator with the reserve kilometers that you have ridden on. Well, adding a little bit to the disappointment, you do get keyless key on the go. Well, the key does not feel just as solid as you would have expected it to be, but you do have a swivel option for a manual key, and this one will only help you to lock the handlebar, and that's about it. If you want to open the fuel tank, well, just unscrew it and it will open right wherever you are, or even your friend can do that, or even your foe. Well, this is a bit risky. I don't know if you guys would appreciate the overall design because it might look a little offset, because from a rider's perspective, if I bring the motorcycle up, one thing that you notice is the tank is a bit too small. It fits within the frontal, but the engine is a way too big. And what definitely picks up my OCD is that the left head is actually a little ahead while the right block is a little bit behind. It's a little offset and it's been bothering me quite a lot. Well, let's chuck that. What I can definitely say and you guys will definitely appreciate if you get a chance is that the ergonomics. Well, this is one of the most comfortable motorcycles to be on, and to start off with, the stand is a very huge unit to support the 345 kgs of this motorcycle. Well, at first it might feel that it is tipping off, but then it locks and you can keep it there. As you lift it up, and pulling it back is a task because it is a heavy unit. Once it's up, well, you've got a very commanding riding posture. It is very comfortable. You cannot go any more front set because of the engine head being here, but the foot pegs are at the best position you can get, with the seat being in the most comfortable tuck-in structure. The seat height is at 695 mm, making one of the most accessible motorcycles, and it looks quite low only because of the size. But decently speaking, I am 5 foot 6 inches and I can flat foot very easily without having any kind of problems. Another spoil sport is the reins over here, because you cannot keep this beautiful motorcycle clean. It keeps bothering you all the times. Well, you don't have a windshield too, so if you're riding fast in the rains, you will definitely get a lot of hit. Ergonomically, this motorcycle is definitely sound, and it comes as a single seater standard, but if you want to have a pillion, well, the unit will be quite small and the foot pegs will stay quite high. These handlebars are standard and they are not too wide. What will definitely help you ride this motorcycle in traffic is that these handlebars are wide enough just as much as the engine head. So if you can filter through, this will come along pretty well. I don't like the design of the mirrors at all, because the round shape does not give you a good view of what's behind. And there is definitely a problem that this motorcycle vibrates so much without having a balancer shaft that you won't be able to see anything behind. The handlebar keeps on vibrating, the engine keeps on vibrating, the whole motorcycle keeps on vibrating, even at idle or even on the get-go. Well, there is definitely a smooth spot where the torque kicks in, and as soon as you go past it, it gives vibration all over. This motorcycle does not get any kind of leg guard as standard, but it definitely requires an engine guard, because if you tip it over, this one will be the first one to take the hit. However, I've been leaning this motorcycle so much, the only thing that touches first are the pegs and not the engine head. This is an unusual phenomenon. You've seen on regular motorcycles the bigger disc is at the front and the rear one is a smaller unit because most of the braking is managed by the front. Well, on this motorcycle the balance is 50-50 because the front brake is just as effective as the rear because the weight is very low. And there's one thing that I can definitely say, that BMW engineers know how to make a balanced motorcycle. Most of the braking is done by the rear, and for a fact the front as well as the rear discs are 300 mm at both ends. It gets intelligent ABS system as well, which is not switchable, but it keeps the motorcycle just as much in control as you ask for it. For the first edition version, you do get a hill start control, and to give you a proper view, a dead front view of how this motorcycle rocks around is basically, I'll give you a startup. And so as soon as you rev it too, it pulls itself to the left. You know what? Let's get riding. Once if you're out riding and you open throttle in the second gear, it will redline at 5700 RPM and it will keep pulling until unless it goes to the red line. You cannot see what the red line is, but you can see from the RPM meter that it is hitting up to 5000 RPM, and right now it is cruising at just 1900 RPM, little below 100, or you can see between 80 and 100. This is the perfect sweetest spot of this motorcycle because it runs very smooth. If I let go of the throttle, it will keep cruising at a particular pace and it will keep moving the way you want it without having to give any kind of throttle input. You can see right now at 60 or below 60, it will stay as it is at just 1150 RPM. That's it. So smooth. The way this motorcycle leans and tips into corners is not at all a problem because it will keep riding the way you like it, and with a good amount of feedback it will keep you in control too. It's got ton of things like the traction control is there, which is not switchable. It got hill start assist, plus it has got an anti-hopping clutch. Although the clutch feels a little heavy, the 6-speed gearbox is slick shifting and it won't hop or it won't shift gears or miss gears basically. There is actually not much to talk about the engine and the characteristics by itself, but you can see there is something more to talk about right up front, and that is nothing but the Mercedes AMG GTR. Although this is an 1800, it revs crazy, but you have to short shift to get used to it. The good part is you don't have to keep shifting gears to overtake in whatever gear you may be. Although if you're not too high, you can actually complete your overtake without having any kind of problem. And to support that, you've got a drive shaft, so there's zero power loss, zero torque loss, and this motorcycle is definitely very quick. There is decent amount of electronics to keep you in control, but there are a few things like it does not get any cruise control, it does not get any kind of speakers or anything. This motorcycle gets basic electronics which are enough to keep you in control, and that's about it. The ABS is intelligent ABS, but that will keep you safe only up to a particular limit, and after that there's a decent amount of sliding that happens even if you are in the rock mode. In the rain mode, it keeps you under control all the time, and that's the best part about it. And you can see right now it's at 1150 RPM, below 60 at the 6th gear, and I'm not giving any kind of throttle input, and the motorcycle cruises by itself. Right now, as you can see on the meter, it's gone into reserve. It does not get a fuel gauge, which is a big problem, and you can see the reserve kilometer range that it is asking for. If you want to take a U-turn, a 2-lane road will be a bit too less because of the wheelbase, but you can actually attempt one without putting a leg down, and with decent amount of throttle input, you see you can actually take a U-turn without a problem. Although if you're in a short lane, you will have to do a 3-point or maybe a 5-point turn. The ground clearance is not at all a problem, although it is not too much, but it hasn't scraped even once. Although this motorcycle feels that it will scrape everywhere possible, it doesn't, which is surprisingly good. Let me ride this motorcycle on kind of bad roads and see how the feedback is. At extremely low speeds, the suspension does its job. At a middle set of speeds, there's a good amount of feedback that it throws you. But if you get any higher, where there is bearable speeds, the suspension will do its job pretty well. But now you can see, ouch. So it's giving good amount of feedback to me and to my bum, and the suspension travel is not too much. You can actually can't see the rear suspension because it is hidden below my seat. And the good part is that if you want to adjust it, you just have to lift the seat out and you can get it done. The front suspension is covered and the travel is decent, but the rake angle, it's a bit of a problem. Now taking a U-turn in such a small road, well, it will be definitely difficult because there's gravel too, and this motorcycle does slip a little on gravel surfaces. You can see I have to do a 3-point turn. Now pushing this motorcycle behind is not a problem too, because you are sitting very low and the center of gravity of this motorcycle is pretty good too. So that way you can move this motorcycle around without having to worry at all. Although it's a bit jokey, but that's about it. So I guess I'll get back to normal talking. Talking about the brakes too, the brakes are brilliant with immediate stopping power. And talking about the grip from the tires, well, you've got 120 section front on a 19-incher, 180 section rear tire on a 16-incher, and the grip is decently well. Although if you push this motorcycle a bit too much, the grip feels a bit lacking, but that's about it. Well, the BMW R18 is not loaded with any kind of gadgets or any electronics or anything that will excite you as much. But there's one thing that definitely excites is the motor, and this one, the 1800cc Boxer Twin, which is the largest boxer motor. And for that and only that, it makes this motorcycle worthwhile and worth to leave it to. The largest boxer engine that I rode was the BMW R1250 GS. This one literally has a bigger heart, and it is a very simple motorcycle. It does not have any kind of extra electronics or anything special to keep you in control. It is very simple, basic, yet a German engineering which has come into a perfect marvel. Some might like the design, some might not. But if you do, and if you have the price, well, the BMW R18 comes in 3 variants. A standard one which costs about 24 lakhs. This one costs about 27, and a classic variant which adds some accessories goes up to 29. BMW also offers a list of accessories to play around with, basically some ape handlebars, bags and all of that, and you can make this motorcycle look like your own. If you want it, well, and if you have the money, go get it. As much as you can see the BMW logos on the motorcycle, you can also see where this motorcycle is built, in Berlin. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.